What's up, guys? DRock1992 here. For this next video, I'm going to be reviewing or doing an overview of the notable movies that came out in the month of November. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So the first movie, actually the first weekend in November was November 4th, and there were 4 films released in that weekend that I'm going to be talking about here. First movie is Doctor Strange, the latest Marvel film. Marvel was very successful early in the year with Captain America Civil War, which, as of today, is still the highest grossing film of this year. Doctor Strange is the second Marvel film from this year, Marvel Cinematic Universe film. So Doctor Strange is starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Chiwetel Ejiofor is in it as well. Rachel McAdams, Tilda Swinton, Mads Mikkelsen. So a pretty good cast for this movie. And it is the 14th film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, by the way. Doctor Strange is this character who can... he's like... he's trained in mystical arts. Doctor Strange is a very out-there character as opposed to your more straightforward superheroes such as Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk. So, Doctor Strange is a different Marvel film. And it made a lot of money. On a $165 million budget, it made $656.5 million. So it made a good chunk of change for sure. And the critics really liked it as well. Critically, it received a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So critics really enjoyed it. CinemaScore gave the film a grade of A. So that was very good. Audiences really liked it, and the critics liked it as well. So Doctor Strange, another successful outing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which right now is just more of a factor, more successful than the DC Cinematic Universe. One, because there's a lot of movies for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So far, there's 14 Marvel Cinematic Universe films, and there's only 3 DC films in their universe. But these films have been successful, so Marvel did it again with Doctor Strange. Next movie I'm going to talk about is an animated movie, the animated movie Trolls. This is based on the Troll dolls. You know those little troll dolls with the weird hair, that you always played with as a little kid? Well, they made a movie about these trolls. And there's a big cast in this movie, a big voiceover cast. Anna Kendrick's in the movie, Justin Timberlake, Zooey Deschanel, James Corden, of the Late Night Show with James Corden, Late Late Show, and several others as well. It is the 33rd feature film, animated film by DreamWorks Animation. DreamWorks Animation, some DreamWorks films I grew up with. So Trolls, on a budget of $125 million, made $329.5 million. It made more than double its budget back, so it's a big success in that way. Critically, it received a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, a very nice, solid review. And the audience that it was targeting gave the film an A. Audiences gave this film an A, so that's very good again. Excuse me. So, it's one of those films that'll appeal more to the little kids. Take your kids to see the movie. But also, it just seems like some adults would actually enjoy the movie themselves, you know? So, Trolls was a big success. Next movie I'm going to talk about is Hacksaw Ridge, a war movie. Hacksaw Ridge is a war movie directed by the great Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, been a successful actor, but he's also been a very successful director. He's directed a lot of great films. Hacksaw Ridge is stars Andrew Garfield, former Spider-Man, Vince Vaughn, Sam Worthington, Hugo Weaving, and several others. So, Mel Gibson directed this film, and on a budget of $40 million, it made $133.4 million. So, very successful. Very successful for this film. It could be a film that you see get nominated for the Oscars, as for Best Picture, perhaps. So, Hacksaw Ridge critically did very well, 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. CinemaScore reports that the audiences gave this film an A. So, very good grade there. So, Hacksaw Ridge, being rumored to get an Oscar nomination for Best Picture, maybe Best Director, maybe Best Actor for Garfield. You never know. But it's a movie I definitely want to see. I do want to see it for sure. And then the next film that I'm going to talk about is a movie called Loving, a small film about an interracial couple. Now, back in the day, there were state laws that prohibited interracial marriage. You were not allowed to get married. A black man couldn't get married to a white woman. A white woman couldn't get married to a black man. And all the different things. It's about a black woman and a white man who are married, and they can't get married. They got in trouble for it. So Loving, on a $9 million budget, made $7.3 million. So, a small film. It didn't make all its money. Did not make all its money back. But it got a positive review for Rotten Tomatoes, a 90%. So, this movie was very successful. And this is another small film that's probably ripe for Oscar season. It could get nominated for the Oscars, for sure. So that's it for the weekend of November 4th. Next weekend in November is the weekend of November 11th. And there are 4 films from that weekend that I'm going to talk about. The first one is the movie Arrival. Arrival stars Amy Adams. By the way, Amy Adams has had a very successful 2016. I'll talk more about that in another possible video I might be doing about actors' years. The years for some actors for this year. But Arrival stars Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker, and more. Arrival is a science fiction film, which I've heard is not an alien invasion film, like a lot of your alien films are about, alien invasion. This is about communicating with aliens, I believe is what it is. Amy Adams is probably, I've heard that Amy Adams could be nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Arrival has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Very successful. Very successful movie for all involved. Audiences gave this movie a grade of B, so audiences like this film. And Arrival, also on a $47 million budget, it made $144.4 million, so it was successful at the box office and successful with critics. Next film that I'm going to talk about here is Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. A very curious movie, starring pretty much a no-name actor as the main character, surrounded by other established names. Joe Alwyn stars as this Billy Lynn character. It's about it's a war drama film, and it's about Joe Alwyn's character is a army veteran who I think it's based on a novel, and it's about an army veteran who I don't really know a lot, but I know it's about an army veteran in particular. Anyway, the people that are around Joe Alwyn are Kristen Stewart, Vin Diesel, Steve Martin, Chris Tucker. So, some established names around this guy. On a $40 million budget, it made $30.9 million. So you have to think that this movie was a box office bomb, because it just didn't make the money. It didn't make the $40 million back that it took to make this film. Critically, the movie received a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not a very mixed review for sure. But yeah, that's one of those movies there. Next movie I'm going to talk about is a Christmas comedy called Almost Christmas. Almost Christmas stars Danny Glover, John Michael Higgins, and some other actors and actresses as well. Almost Christmas is about a dysfunctional family. You've seen a lot of those movies. Almost Christmas made $42.2 million at the box office on a $17 million budget. So it made money, but it did receive a mixed reviews. It received a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's one of those Christmas movies that, down the middle probably among critics. And on CinemaScore, the movie got an A- overall. So audiences who did see this film, they liked it. They liked it a lot. And then the next film I'm going to talk about is a thriller film called Shut-In, starring Naomi Watts, a great talented actress. It's on a budget of $10 million. It only made $8.4. Probably a smaller film, but just didn't make the money back. Didn't make its money back. Critically, it received a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, this movie is going to be included on a lot of worst lists. In fact, there was a top 10 list that I saw on YouTube by a movie critic, and Shut-In was on that list. So, a lot of critics did not like it. Audiences who saw the movie didn't necessarily love it. They gave the movie a grade of C according to CinemaScore. So this movie probably one of the low points of the career of Naomi Watts. Anyway, the next weekend in November was November 18th. And there are 5 movies, I believe, that I'm going to talk about that came out this weekend. First one is a Harry Potter spin-off. It's a Harry Potter prequel. You know, the Harry Potter movies are all very good. The books are very good, the movies are very good. But we get our first prequel of Harry Potter. It is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It was written by this. It's based on a book written by the same author who wrote the Harry Potter books, J.K. Rowling. So Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's about this guy who loses a bunch of beasts in a suitcase or something like that, and they, they have to. Eddie Redmayne is the main actor in this film. Eddie Redmayne, Colin Farrell's in the movie, Jon Voight, Ron Perlman, Catherine Waterston. So this movie was a big box office success. On a $180 million budget, it made $747.7 million. So it was a very successful film. Thus far, it's the 8th highest grossing film of this year. So that's a big success. Critically, it received a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. So very successful. Audiences who saw this film gave the film an A according to CinemaScore. So audiences liked it. Critics, for the most part, liked it. I wasn't really looking forward to seeing this film, but now that I've seen how it's been and all that sort of thing, I kind of changed my tune on it. I'd like to see this film at some point. I'll see it late, but I'd like to see it, for sure. Next movie I'm going to talk about here is The Edge of 17. This one is a teenager film, a comedy drama film. It's one of those teen films. It stars Haley Steinfeld in the lead role. Woody Harrelson's in the movie as well. And it is a smaller film. On a $9 million budget, it made only $14.3, so it really didn't do a lot box office-wise. But the movie did get a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, so this is a critically acclaimed film. Audiences really liked the film, who saw it. They gave the film an A-. So yeah, and a lot of people say that Haley Steinfeld gave an outstanding performance as the lead character in the movie. So this one's a critically acclaimed film, but not a lot of people saw it because it was a smaller film. Next film I'm going to talk about is Bleed for This, which is a biographical sports film. It's based on the life of former world champion boxer Vinny Pazienza. And Miles Teller stars as this boxer. Aaron Eckhart is in the movie. Katie Seagal is in the movie as well. Bleed for This, another smaller type film. It only made $5.4 million on a $6 million budget, so it was a box office bomb. However, the movie did receive a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, so for the most part, critics liked it. CinemaScore gave the movie a grade of A-, so the people who did see this movie, they liked it. And the critics who saw this movie, for the most part, they liked it. The next film I'm going to talk about here is Manchester by the Sea. It is an Oscar bait film. From what I've heard, Manchester by the Sea is a Oscar bait film. Casey Affleck, the brother of Ben Affleck, is in this movie as the lead guy. Michelle Williams is also in this film, so it definitely, so far for this movie, on an $8.5 million budget, It made $24.1 million. So for a smaller movie, very successful. And it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. I've been hearing Best Actor nod for Casey Affleck. So it could be a big success. Critically, it received a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So a very good critical review of this movie. And then the next movie I'm going to talk about is Nocturnal Animals, which is the second starring performance from Amy Adams in this month. She stars in the movie. She's the main star. Jake Gyllenhaal is also in this movie. Isla Fisher, Michael Shannon, Aaron Taylor Johnson. So a big cast for this film. Nocturnal Animals is... it's about this author who has troubles with her, I think it's either her ex-husband or her husband. Nocturnal Animals overall, on a $22.5 million budget, made $22 million, so it's not exactly a box office bomb, but it didn't make all its money back. However, this movie does have good critical response. Good, solid critical response, a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's very good. And I've heard again, Amy Adams was very good in this movie. So, Amy Adams has had quite the year this year. And this one is another example. So, so that's it for the weekend of November 18th. In terms of notable films. November 23rd is the next week that I want to talk about here, weekend. And the first movie that I'm going to talk about here is a movie called Moana. Moana has the distinction of being the 56th Disney animated feature film in their Disney Animation Classics lineup. It's the 56th film. We had the 55th film earlier this year with Zootopia, which was a big critical success, and it made a lot of money. With Moana, Moana on a $150 million budget, it made $347.3 million. So very successful. It was very successful financially. Moana... One of the actors in this movie is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who voices a character. Critically, this movie received a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of critical praise going towards this film. So, and audiences gave this film an A according to CinemaScore. So audiences really liked it, and the critics really liked the film. So this is another film in the long history of Disney animation that has just been a big time success. Next film I'm going to talk about here is Allied. The two main actors in this movie are Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard. Allied raised a lot of questions about Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard and their romantic involvement, according to the media and all that sort of thing. One of the big stories was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's divorce from this year. Brangelina is no more. And there were people who thought that Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard would hook up, but I guess Marion Cotillard denied the rumors, from what I heard. Anyway, Allied is is about this these two people It's about an intelligence officer and resistance fighter. They fall in love during a mission to kill a German official. It's a movie that I probably would like to see. Robert Zemeckis directs this film. Robert Zemeckis is a well-known name directorial-wise. He's a good director, for sure. So two brand names and a brand name director, and it received mixed review. Box office-wise, on an $85 million budget, it only made $80.3 million. So, unfortunately, this film did not do extremely well with the box office. Didn't make its money back. It was kind of a little bit of a box office disappointment. Allied did receive a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it was not that good of a review. Audiences gave the film a B overall, so they liked the movie enough for the people who did see this film. So, so that's it for that movie. Next movie I'm going to talk about is Bad Santa 2. This is the sequel to Bad Santa, which came out in 2003. This is one of those sequels that's like, did we really need it? Did we really need a sequel? Like Zoolander 2. Zoolander 2 came out early this year in February. And the first Zoolander came out in 2001. A big gap between those the two films. Bad Santa, the first film, came out in 2003. So it's been a long time since we got a sequel to Bad Santa, but we got one. Bad Santa 2, Billy Bob Thornton reprises his role, his starring role from Bad Santa. Tony Cox also reprises his role, and there's a couple new actors in there, Kathy Bates and Christina Hendricks. Overall, the movie did not do good box office-wise. $26 million budget, and it only made $23 million, so it did not do well. Critically, it only received a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. The first Bad Santa did receive positive reviews, and I believe it made money. This second one just proves that comedy sequels generally do not work. Cinema Score gave the film a C+, so they didn't they didn't necessarily love the film. So there you go. Next film I'm going to talk about is Rules Don't Apply, directed by the legendary actor Warren Beatty. Rules Don't Apply stars Annette Bening, Matthew Broderick, Lily Collins, Alden Ehrenreich, Alec Baldwin is in the film as well, and Warren Beatty. This is a movie directed, produced, written, and starring Warren Beatty. So he did everything for this film. It's about the relationship between these two young people that's forbidden by their employer in the movie business. This is a set in 1958 Hollywood, so this was like the golden age of Hollywood, where a lot of epic movies were being made at that time. So with Rules Don't Apply, it was a box office bomb, first off. On a $25 million budget, it made just $3.7 million. A big-time bomb for this movie. Critically, the film only received a 57%, so not even the critical reviews could really save this movie. For the few people that did see the movie, Cinema Score gave this film an average grade of B-. So that was pretty solid. But the reviews were were mediocre, were down the middle, and then it was a big box office bomb. Probably one of the big bombs of 2016. We've had some, for sure. Let's see here. And then there were a couple other movies that came out November 25th that I'm going to talk about here. Miss Sloane is the first movie. Miss Sloane is a political thriller film, and it stars Jessica Chastain. On a $13 million budget, it made $3.4 million. So another box office bomb. Miss Sloane, it's about Elizabeth Sloane, who's a lobbyist who advocates for universal background checks. So she's a powerful lobbyist, from what I've heard about this movie. Miss Sloane overall received a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not a great review, not a great score, but a decent score for this movie. But I've heard that Jessica Chastain delivers in this film. And then the final movie of November that I'm going to talk about here is the movie Lion. And the movie Lion is about a young boy who finds his parents via Google search, I believe, something like that. He searches for his long-lost family using Google Earth. It stars a guy named Dev Patel. Rooney Mara is in the film. Nicole Kidman is also another big star in this movie. It didn't make a ton of money. It's a smaller film. $2.9 million worldwide at the box office. Critically, this movie received an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it was a very good rating for Rotten Tomatoes, and, didn't make a ton of money yet. It has yet to be released in some countries, but a pretty solid review nonetheless. And that is it for the movies of November. We got a lot of Oscar-nominated films. You'll probably see Manchester by the Sea get nominated. You might see The Edge of 17, possibly. You could see Hacksaw Ridge get nominated. You got a blockbuster in Doctor Strange. Moana was also a big money earner. Fantastic Beasts was also a good money earner. You got your so-so films like Allied, Rules Don't Apply, and others as well. And then you got your bad films, Bad Santa 2, and Shut In as well. Arrival actually is another one that might get Oscar nomination. So it was a good year. It was a good month for animation. Trolls made great money, and Moana also made good money too. So a good month for animated films. So that is it for the films of November. Next month I'm going to talk about is the final month of 2016, December. So that is it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.